Absurdism is a philosophical and literary movement that explores the conflict between the human desire to find inherent meaning in life and the silent, indifferent universe that offers none. Rooted in existential thought, absurdism highlights the irrationality and unpredictability of the human condition. It often confronts audiences with the absurdity of existence, the futility of seeking purpose, and the alienation of the modern individual. Absurdism has had a significant impact on literature, drama, and philosophy, particularly in the 20th century. Writers like Albert Camus, Samuel Beckett, and Eugène Ionesco have used the absurd to capture the anxieties and disorientation of post-war societies. Absurdism is a philosophical stance asserting that human beings exist in a purposeless, chaotic universe. It suggests that life's inherent lack of meaning creates a conflict between humans' search for purpose and the universe's silence. This confrontation gives rise to the absurd, a state of existence where traditional systems of meaning, religion, logic, social order, fail to provide adequate explanations for the human experience. At the heart of absurdism lies the notion that 1. Humans naturally seek meaning and order in life. 2. The universe is indifferent, often chaotic, and devoid of inherent meaning. 3. This clash produces the absurd, an unresolvable tension between human hope and cosmic indifference. The response to the absurd varies. One might embrace nihilism, suicide, or rebellion. However, the absurdist approach, as advocated by Camus, is to accept the absurd condition and continue living in defiance of it, without appeal to illusions or comforting lies. Definitions by philosophers and critics. Albert Camus. In The Myth of Sisyphus, 1942, Camus famously wrote, "The absurd is born of this confrontation between the human need and the unreasonable silence of the world." Camus saw the absurd as a central feature of human consciousness. He rejected both religious and nihilistic solutions and proposed a life of revolt, where one lives with dignity despite the absence of meaning. Martin Esslin, theatre critic. Martin Esslin introduced the term theatre of the absurd in his 1960 book of the same name. He described it as a form of drama that expresses the absurdity of the human condition through unconventional narratives, illogical dialogue, and bizarre characters. The theatre of the absurd is not a school, but a group of loosely connected dramatists who express modern man's sense of the senselessness of life. Esslin included playwrights like Beckett, Ionesco, Genet, and Pinter under this category. Søren Kierkegaard. Though not an absurdist himself, Kierkegaard's existential explorations laid groundwork for absurdist thought. He spoke of the leap of faith as a response to the absurd condition. Camus later rejected this leap, believing it was a philosophical escape. History and philosophical background. Ancient roots. Though absurdism is a modern philosophical movement, echoes of absurd thought can be found in ancient literature and philosophy. Ecclesiastes in the Bible reflects on the vanity and futility of life. Greek tragedy, especially in plays like Oedipus Rex, explores fate, suffering, and the limits of human understanding. Modern absurdism. The rise of absurdism in the 20th century is inseparable from historical events such as World War I and II, the rise of totalitarian regimes, the existential crisis in post-war Europe, the collapse of religious and ideological certainties. These events led to a sense of alienation, disorientation, and skepticism about traditional narratives and ideologies. The trauma of war, genocide, and the atomic bomb forced humanity to confront the fragility and absurdity of existence. Existentialism versus absurdism. Absurdism and existentialism are closely related. Both begin with the individual's confrontation with a meaningless world. However, existentialists like Sartre believe in creating personal meaning through freedom and responsibility. Absurdists like Camus assert that life is ultimately meaningless and creating meaning is itself absurd, but we must live with this absurdity. Absurdism in literature. Key characteristics. Absurdist literature often exhibits the following traits: illogical plots and disjointed narratives, circular or repetitive dialogue, minimalism and silence, dark humor and irony, characters who are confused, alienated, or passive, themes of time, identity, death, and futility. This literature doesn't aim to provide solutions, but to mirror the disorientation and meaninglessness of human life. The theatre of the absurd. The most prominent manifestation of absurdism in literature is in drama. This subgenre, highlighted by Martin Esslin, rejects traditional structure and logical storytelling. Samuel Beckett play, Waiting for Godot, 1953. This iconic play features two characters, Vladimir and Estragon, who wait endlessly for someone named Godot who never arrives. The action is minimal, the dialogue repetitive, and the setting desolate. Nothing to be done. Opening line, Beckett captures the futility of hope and the cyclical nature of human routines. Eugène Ionesco play, The Bald Soprano, 1950. This play mocks conventional communication. Characters speak in clichés, paradoxes, and nonsense. Language collapses into absurdity, reflecting the breakdown of communication in modern society. Jean Genet play, The Maids, 1947. Genet explores role-playing, identity, and power in a surreal, symbolic narrative. His plays question social norms and blur the boundaries between reality and illusion. Harold Pinter play, The Birthday Party, 1957. Pinter uses ambiguous dialogue, menace, and silence to reflect existential dread. His comedies of menace show characters trapped in inexplicable situations with no clear resolution. Albert Camus, The Stranger, 1942. This novel tells the story of Meursault, a man who is emotionally detached from life and society. He kills a man without remorse and is sentenced to death. The narrative reveals the absurdity of moral and judicial systems. I opened myself to the gentle indifference of the world. Meursault's indifference is emblematic of the absurd hero who accepts the absurdity of life without seeking false hope. Franz Kafka, The Trial, 1925. Kafka's novel follows Joseph K., who is arrested and prosecuted by a mysterious authority for an unspecified crime. The bureaucracy is opaque, the logic circular, and the protagonist helpless. Someone must have slandered Joseph K. for one morning without having done anything truly wrong. He was arrested. Kafka's work, though written earlier, profoundly influenced absurdist writers. Joseph Heller, Catch-22, 1961. This satirical novel exposes the irrationality of war and bureaucracy through paradox and absurdity. The famous Catch-22 is a logical trap. Airmen deemed insane can be grounded, but requesting not to fly proves their sanity. Kurt Vonnegut, Slaughterhouse-Five, 1969. Vonnegut blends science fiction, dark humor, and absurdism in a novel that critiques war, particularly the bombing of Dresden. The protagonist, Billy Pilgrim, becomes unstuck in time and lives through surreal experiences that reflect the absurdity of violence. Absurdism in contemporary literature. Even today, absurdist themes continue to appear in works that reflect modern anxieties, digital disconnection, and existential dread. Examples: David Foster Wallace, Infinite Jest, explores entertainment, addiction, and meaninglessness in a fragmented world. Chuck Palahniuk, Fight Club, features nihilistic characters searching for meaning in consumer culture. Absurdist literature was initially met with confusion and even hostility due to its rejection of conventional narrative forms. However, over time, it has gained critical acclaim for its innovative techniques and philosophical depth. Critics like Martin Esslin, Theodore Adorno, and Raymond Williams have analyzed its cultural significance. Absurdism challenges readers to rethink literature, society, and themselves. Today, absurdism is studied in philosophy, literature, theater, and psychology for its insights into alienation, identity, and the human condition. Here's a curated list of essential absurdist texts. Novels: The Stranger by Albert Camus, The Myth of Sisyphus by Albert Camus, philosophical essay. The Trial and the Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka, Catch-22 by Joseph Heller, Slaughterhouse-5 by Kurt Vonnegut, Murphy by Samuel Beckett. Plays: Waiting for Godot by Samuel Beckett, Endgame by Samuel Beckett, The Bald Soprano by Eugène Ionesco, Rhinoceros by Eugène Ionesco, The Maids by Jean Genet, The Dumb Waiter by Harold Pinter. Absurdism is not a call to despair, but a philosophy of defiance. It encourages individuals to face the void without retreating into illusions or false beliefs. Whether in literature, theater, or philosophy, absurdism confronts the deepest questions of human existence with honesty and artistry. In a world that often seems chaotic and indifferent, absurdist literature provides a mirror, sometimes grotesque, sometimes hilarious, to our own struggles for meaning. Its relevance continues as long as we continue to ask, what does it all mean? As Camus said, one must imagine Sisyphus happy. In recognizing the absurd, we also discover our freedom to live authentically.